Hello everyone, welcome to Discover Joyous Love. I am your host, Anita DeFrancesco, and I bring this program to you. Generally, it comes out on Mondays here with my webcam, and this is episode 15, and our topic is letting go of victimization. So first I want to show you a few books that I wrote. This book is called Live Free that I wrote, and it came out in 2008. It's about my life, and one of the chapters is letting go of victimization. You can find this book on Amazon, Live Free, Recreate and Liberate Your Life. And it talks about, in here I go through all the different transformational processes that I had to undertake to become the whole person that I am today, the transformed human being that I am here with you today, sharing my life and being a healer to you. I'm a psychotherapist and a love and relationship coach. My work is tantrawisdom.com. I also have another book here for a girl who was victimized, a first cousin, the Donna Gentile story. True Crime Was Murdered, 1985. You'll have to get this on Amazon. It's very popular right now because true crime right now is a very hot topic out there, hot genre out there. And this is about a girl who was victimized but had resilience to fight and try and save herself. But sometimes we get caught up because of the victim mentality. So let's talk about that. So in my book here, one of the first, in my book, both books in my book here, Live Free, one of the first statements that I have is the challenge was to see how much like I can get out of myself. So in actuality, what victimization is about not loving yourself, not liking yourself. So if you don't like yourself and you hate yourself and you continually repeat the head chatter of I hate myself, I'm no good, I can't do this, nobody likes me, then you are preying on the victim. Now, where does that victim mentality come from? It stems from many, many different experiences in your life. Growing up, it could be physical, could be mental, emotional. It's trauma. It's a conundrum of trauma that overtakes your psyche. And you continually lean on this as a survivor skill or as a way of getting sympathy from others. For example, I grew up with parents that were alcoholics, or one of my parents died when I was younger. And so these are things that you look for sympathy from people. There's work. You can do the work on yourself, and you can go to group therapy, and you can find a group to support you in these types of things. But you really need the intricate work, depending on the damage that was done in your somatic body, your brain body, your pain body. What kind of damage was done in there to affect your brain, to affect the decisions you make, to affect the relationships you choose, to affect the career that you choose, and to be a submissive or a submissive passive type of person or a more aggressive controlling type person. And either one are no good. There is the black and white, the scales where you want to find some balance in between. But to be a victim and live in that passive, submissive, entertain yourself with that is a way of being addicted to some form of pseudo pleasure that you create within your body. Okay? So the victim, again, like I said, the challenge was to see how much like I could get out of myself. And from every experience that I endured, I was learning to love myself and grow. But what happens to people that are victims is sometimes they become so suppressed and so depressed, and they want to get, they become depressed to a point of clinical depression because they don't know how to handle the victimization. They think it's never going to go away. It will always be there, but we just want to take it and put it over there. But we have to do the work, folks. I'm sorry. Stop moseying around. You need to do the work. Without mistakes, we can't forgive or learn. So every part of you that is a mistake, or every part of you that was vulnerable to become a victim and receive some form of trauma, is something that you need to forgive yourself for. No one is free when others are oppressed. So I'll talk to you a little bit more during this course of this program today about my the victimization that I experienced as I was growing up. But let me get on with some of my notes here I have for you. Trapped as a victim, okay? Letting go of what I have here for you is to letting go of the things that bind me as a victim. That is number one. Letting go of the things that bind me as a victim. Let's recite that and let's write down all of the things that you think bind you as a victim. Because you're trapped in your own body. You're trapped in your own mind. It's a conundrum. Unresolved trauma becomes something that keeps you trapped. So whether it's a physical trauma, emotional, sexual, whatever it is, it needs to be dealt with. It's a form of mental programming and conditioning. So over and over again, you become, this pattern forms within your body and your mind. And, oh, yes, this happened to me. And, oh, that happened to me. And I grew up in the wrong home with the wrong parents. And oh, my parents, slapped me around. And whatever it was, or the kids in school bullied me. Whatever the trauma was that created you to be having this framework, this psychological framework that you're living with, that you're not happy with, is something you need to do the work on. And you can do the work. I'm here. That's why I'm doing these programs, to tell you that you can. So the programming and the conditioning, it comes from this perpetrator or abuser versus bystander mentality. And it's not something because we want to, but it's something that you do because you think you need that victim part of you to survive. And in some instances you do, because you're abandoned, you're neglected, and that affects your emotions. You become frozen, you become armored. And how do you survive? You tap into the superego, or you get higher up and overdevelop your ego. You become narcissistic, psychopathic, or you have elements of all of these things. And, as a child, when you routinely become abused, you learn to acquiesce. Just like a woman who gets raped over and over, she acquiesces, or she's afraid to open her mouth because she's afraid of her perpetrator. Or the child is afraid of the perpetrator, the domineering parent. Big, tall parents standing over them, abusing them. So you become conditioned and acquiesce. You basically become resilient to it in such a way that the resiliency is the survivor tool. But you must transform from that into the spirit, into the higher spirit. Because once the resiliency becomes the survivor part, it goes between resiliency, stuckedness, frozenness, and armor in the body. And then that affects the way the character of the brain thinks. Denial, control, head chatter, discharging all the time, anger. So at a period of time in your life, the more abuse you get, the more addicted you get to it. And you start to become so frozen that you suppress your feelings. You suppress your tears. Now, crying is a wonderful, wonderful therapeutic healing tool to tap into. It's cathartic to open up to your tears, okay? And just allow them to be there. Men, women, of course, men, boys are taught not to cry. But in this day and age, there's a lot more superior men out there, a lot more spiritual men, artistic men that are more in their feminine side, and they're able to tap into that vulnerableness and allow that to be there. Self-blame. So when you blame yourself for everything, you broke up with a lover in a relationship and you're blaming yourself for the whole relationship that went sour. That's the victim. And then now that becomes your MO. You're a victim. Well, every relationship from there on, you're going to blame yourself for it not working. You have to get out of the fire. You must lift yourself and rise up to your power. Transference. Now, transference is something you get from other people. Growing up in a home, the transference is biological. So it is transferred from family to siblings and environments that you're in. Or if you're just with friends, you pick up a set of a transference and transference is basically like an energy. Okay, so it's an energy that comes within and it starts to take over, and you become weakened passively by someone else's negativity. It's like a vampire. They're sucking you of your blood, so to speak, sucking you of your precious energy. Now, the lessons learned implicably are the things that you develop as you grow up. And these lessons that you learn could be right or wrong, or they could be neither, but they could be harmful. So we have to distinguish between the lessons that we learn. Self-recognition, relationship bonding, to your own feelings, self-attachment. Yes, we want to have a relationship to our feelings, and that is in my book. I have a chapter in this Live Free book about the relationship to your own feelings. And during the course of that relationship that I built to my feelings, it's different than self-attachment. If you have too much self-attachment, you're unable to step out. But if you have a relationship to your feelings, you're able to talk to yourself. You're able to come back. And you and the little girl, the inner child that lives within, or the little boy, the inner child, you're able to team up together and balance out the homeostasis, the ego, id, superego, and you're able to become more wholesome and bring your split back together. So it's important to tap into the inner child. And this is the relationship to your feelings. But the self-attachment can be damaging because we need to not be self-attaching to anyone or ourselves, but we need to have the relationship and the boundaries. People who treat you differently, it allows us to loosen up the victim style perception. So look at that with the way people treat you. Sometimes people are going to treat you either like you're different, or like you're a victim, or like maybe you're not a victim. So would it allow that victim style that you've been cultivating and patterning? It becomes like your face now, the victim style. It could change. Self-attachment allows us to talk to ourselves and form opinions. Self-attachment, yes, like I said, the relationship to your feelings, but not too much self-attachment. Attachment in such a way that it's a relationship where you talk to your inner child. We decide consciously or subconsciously what kind of world we will live in. What kind of world we live in, not that we will live in, what kind of world we live in. So you sit back for a moment, your conscious and your subconscious, and you decide the world you live in. It's a vision. It's a choice. Bridging the conscious and the subconscious. We then analyze our relationship to the constructed world. So you sit back and you analyze your relationship to the world, the infrastructure, the construction. How does it work? The intervention. Does the world meet our expectations or surprises us? Does it meet the expectations, or are we overwhelmed or surprised? Is the world against him or her? So the victimization mentality embarks upon people walking around saying, the world hates me, everyone hates me, the world is against me. And then they get this isolation about themselves. They don't trust people. And these are the psychological characters that can develop, like not trusting people, or isolating would be a body thing, because a body and a mind thing, where you become the outsider. But you cause that, you create that. But then again, we have to take a look at what your traumas were to see why you are in that particular place. The healthier you become, emotionally, spiritually, somatically, a shift happens and you blend with the world. Isn't that wonderful? Now, blending with the world. You just want to be able to fit in is what it is. You want to be able to join. You want to be able to be accepted. You know, fitting in the world, it's a big world and everyone has all kinds of things, but you just want to be able to be congruent, have that harmony going on. We reinforce the belief that people and the world suck. So what happens is with the victim mentality, they keep reinforcing that everybody's bad, the world sucks, there's nothing for me out there, the job doesn't want me, nobody likes me, I hate myself, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm stupid. And, I had such a bad life growing up. The kids bullied me. Get off of that page. Get off of the victimization page is what I'm asking you. Because the more you carry that around, it becomes a pattern and it becomes your face. It becomes who you are. It becomes your character. You can let go. That's the next part. Letting go. Breaking out of the strong triangle of victim, abuser. It requires a shift. And how do you get a shift? You start to do primal scream therapy, which I teach and do. You start to do emotional breathing, orgonomy energy breathing that Dr. Wilhelm Reich developed. You want to live free, folks. You don't want to be like the Donna Gentile story who was a victim and turned to resilience and got overpowered by her resilience, which ended up in murder. So you want to be able to let go, but you must do this work, like I just said, all of the work, coaching, etc., talking, seeing good therapists, group therapy. Now, the victim and shame, due to experiences of abuse and trauma, they go hand in hand. Victim and shame, hand in hand. We have this shame about us that we're hiding. It becomes fear, and it can turn into fear, sadness. But the underlying emotion is anger. What is the process of being victimized? Now, it's physical or you become victimized by a physical or a psychological event. Now, physical could be you might have had a terrible car accident and that left you traumatized from ever getting in a car again or whatever. That's a different, those kind of, victimization mentalities are due to, like, say, accidental things that happen to you. But then they can create a whole set of other things in you. The ones that I'm really concerned about are the psychological, the things that, the experiences you had, the kids bullying you in school, the parents didn't talk nice to you, whatever it was. You didn't have such a great upbringing, you grew up in a poor family instead of a rich family, you're a victim now, right? Okay. Guess what? There are no victims in the world, folks. No one is a victim because we all have issues and we all have to climb that ladder. And even if you come from the perfect family, money or no money, the right side of town, the wrong side of town, whatever it is, you still, when one is a victim, we all are, if you want to say that, but you still have to work to get to your status in life. So being a victim, is it out of your control or is it in your control? Assaults, accidents, robbery. Okay. I knew a girl once, she worked in a bank, and of course, one day a bank robber came in, put the gun to her head. Now she's a victim forever, supposedly. A gun was at her head, and she says many psychological issues from that, of being attacked, And so there are different types of victimization that, just like your parents pointing the finger at you, or slapping you around, or locking you in a room when you're a child because you were bad, or you don't get dinner tonight. This can really shape that victim personality, the patterns in the neurological nervous system. Let's wake up, folks. Recreate and liberate your life. Stress, shock, numbness, helplessness, vulnerability, anger, fear, and confusion, guilt and more, and even grief can leave you as a victim. Shame is there. Self-blame. Stop blaming yourself. Again, like that girl, Gabby Petito. She blamed herself all the way in that van trip with that boy, Brian Laundrie. She kept blaming herself, that she was being the one that was, shouldn't have been so, like she called it OCD, cleaning the car out, and he was getting angry. So she blamed herself that she gets a little bit anxious about having a clean car or whatever. And so she blames herself, as a woman would do, because women are still hearing that voice of, you got to nurture the man, and you get blamed, right? You're the one that's at fault. And and you see the victim that she was and the victim that she is now, a victim of murder. 3 factors. So self-shaming often is seen in substance abuse. So again, if you are a person that has experienced any type of substance abuse, addictions, alcoholism, narcotics, there's that self-shaming that will exist. And it's psychosexual. It's around, it involves the sexual energy of the body. Because when someone is addicted, it's because they can't express their fullness along the way in their lives. And somehow they shut themselves down. Their suppression, their constant abuse, their constant perpetrators that told them they were nothing, pointing the finger or judge them, belittle them, caused them to go in such a submissive, oppressive character within their body that they started to do drugs or drink to maybe perhaps have some expression, allow their lid to come and be open so that they can be, a lot of people say they drink and then they get happy, you know, they get expressive, they say what they want to say, but in essence, that's suppressing you even more, the alcohol, the narcotics. And then what happens is when these people start to do that, it eventually turns to addiction. And now they're right back where they started, that self-shame, and non-expression. 3 factors, victim mentality. Bad things happen to me all the time. Oh, see, this happened. Now every Monday is going to be bad, or every Tuesday is bad, or every Wednesday is bad because, you know, this happened to me on this Wednesday and this year and that date. And so now every year that times, it's like saying, you know, you're going to get your family's pre-existing conditions like hereditary stuff, which is all baloney. You don't have to get any of the hereditary things that your family has disease-wise. Another thing here, other people are to blame, and change is a fail. So a lot of time, what happens is that the victim, the person that is the victim, thinks that change will fail them. And so they fear changing. They fear changing, you know, maybe jobs or living or moving away from the family or to another state, because change means fail. And this is real bad. So these people really need to be lifted and undo the layers. You're listening to Discover Joyous Love. I'm your host, Anita DeFrancesco, episode 15, and this is letting go of victimization. Now, victims lack power. Power, you know, what kind of power? What is power to you? Is power being like physical? Power comes from your truth, your lower chakra. It's in your body. It shines when you walk in a room. People see your integrity. They see your power. They see your confidence and courage. To reclaim your power, we must make a list of all of the things that, again, that we think made us a victim. Make that list. Then make the list of let's let go of it, or how you can let go of these things, what you can do to make yourself better this week. So power is cultivated. You have to work for this power. And the power is your voice. It's Your Voice is my podcast as well on Tuesdays. Negative head chatter and sabotage. This is the worst. So people have this negative head chatter that goes on and on and on, over and over and over again. And they self-sabotage themselves, like, oh, I'm no good, I can't do this, and what are these people looking at? Why are they looking at me? I'm not anything to look at. Oh, no one wants to go out with me, no one wants to marry me, whatever it is. I don't have any friends. So, folks, this victimization mentality has got to go. You need to do the work. Too much negative self-talk damages one's resilience, and it's hard to bounce back. So the more negative head talk that you have going on, it's going to, now look, resiliency is where we go. When we get a physical injury, you get a sore, you get a cut, or you hurt your ankle or your knee and your joint, and then you bounce back because you're resilient. You know, you're able to bounce back from the pain, or even like if you get the flu, you're able to bounce back quicker because you have built-in, what we call built-in resiliency. But the more negativity in the head chatter causes more suppression to the body, and having the psychological empowerment of resilience will be difficult to bounce back to. So, in other words, and also age, the maturer you get, sometimes it's harder to bounce back. So we have to keep cleansing. It's called emotional cleansing is my work. Cleansing out so that by the time you get to be mature in life, you already are able to bounce back to your resiliency. Resiliency is your power. Lack of self-confidence. So the taking time, courage, it's the heart. We need to become empowered with courage. Courage is key to reinforcing the psychological self, opening up to your emotions, frustration, anger. And then we have the victimization again. It comes from trauma, betrayal, codependency, and manipulation. Now, betrayal comes in all forms, not just, you're dating and someone cheats. If they belittle you, if they lie about other things, that's all betrayal. Or if you're, you go to your friend's house and they go out while you're there, that's betrayal. They're leaving you there. This is the abandonment, neglect, whatever it is. Manipulation. Refrain from labeling yourself as a victim. That's number one. Take that word victim out of your vocabulary. You're not a victim. Stigma around the victim is in the way people blame others for their spiritual insufficiencies. Okay? You may feel accused all the time. You may feel, and people that generally do that to you, you can just become a victim even if you aren't. But you can feel that way, but you don't have to take on that victim personality. Offer encouragement and validation for people that seem to be living in a victim mind. Victims need courage and validation. Victim mentality, that is, or any victims. But the most profound victims out there are sexual abuse. And that is really scarring. And that is very hard to bounce back from and get resiliency, depending on, women that are raped and things of that nature. It's the most profound victimization. And those kind of people need a lot of help, but all of us need help. Like when one person suffers, we all suffer, right? So in Live Free, in my book, letting go of the negative stuff that binds you is what I talk about in there. We're all victims at one time or another. Keep that in mind. We are all victims at one time or another in our lives. Taking on others' burdens makes you somewhat of a victim. People suffer because they are waiting for others to deliver them. Anita, I will put that up as a statement, a saying this week. People suffer because they are waiting for others to deliver them. Let's pull yourself together, folks, and out of the fire we go. All right. So this whole thing with victim is about letting go of the patterns and the isolation and the victimization that bind you. And you can do it. You can tune in. You've been listening to Discover Joyous Love. I'm your host, Anita DeFrancesco, episode 15. And the topic this week is letting go of victimization. TantraWisdom.com is my work. And the Donna Gentile story that you can find on Amazon, a girl who was a victim, but she saved herself from being a victim, but then fell prey to become a victim of murder. And Live Free, my other book, which talks about my life as a victim in here and how I transformed and how I lifted myself from the fire in here. So basically what I did in this book is, it's an experiential, amazing journey of self-discovery, transformation, and enlightenment is detailed here in these inspirational words. I was hospitalized at a very young age, and this is where my victimization began, but where I also became transformed and awakened. So if you would like, I embarked upon a journey that led me to understand why people suffer. When one suffers, we all suffer. So if you're interested in reading this book, you can pick it up on Amazon. Thank you for tuning in. Discover Joyous Love.